This is how you play the 1, 4, 5, 7 to 5, 5, 7, 1 chord progression in F major, parallel and bass line. Like all of our chord progressions, we're going to start in the first inversion. So for F major, that puts the third on the bottom, A, C in the middle, and then the root, F on top. And since this is first inversion, right hand uses 2 in the middle. Play me that one chord. Now to get to our 4, we're going to use the 4th note of the scale, F, G, A, B flat, and build a chord on it using the notes from the F major key. So B flat, D, F. We already have an F on top, and so just our bottom notes need to move up a step to B flat and D. And that gives us the B flat major chord. Now to get to our 5-7, there's really no way around it. We need to, 5-7-5. There's no way around it. We need to know what that chord is because the moves are a little bit too complicated to get to it as easily as just move the bottom 2 up. So, the 5-7-5. In F major, the 5 is C. So we're going to pretend we're in C major and use its 5-7. That's why it's 5-7 of 5. In C major, the 5-7 is G. So G, B, D, F. Alright, so we definitely need a G because that's the root, so our top note's going to go up. We definitely need a B because that's going to be what makes it sound major or minor, so that bottom note's going to move up a half step. And then we also need, we don't need D because that's just added harmony, but we do need F because that's what makes it a 7th chord. So that middle note's going to go up a 3rd. I guess we could keep that D if we wanted to, but I don't want to. And let's play that. Alright, so let's do that move again. So go back to the 4 chord. So that top note gets played, but you also have to add the note above. And then that bottom note moves up a half step. So there's an overall up movement, but keep the top note. Alright, now to get to the 5-7, we're back in F major, because it's not of anything, it's just 5-7. So in F major, the 5-7 is C. So C, E, G, B flat. Alright, with any 5-7 chord, again, we gotta do some mental gymnastics to figure out how are we gonna voice it. We need the C, because that's the root. So bottom note moves up a half step. We need the E, because that makes it sound major or minor. So our middle note moves down a half step. We don't need G, though our finger's already on it, so if you wanted to, you could keep it. But I don't want to. It's just added harmony. And then we need a B flat because that makes it a 7. So we're going to adjust our fingers and add that B flat. Alright, so there's our C7, our 5-7, but let's go back to the 5-7-5. G7. And let's see how that move is actually going to play out. These top 2 notes are going to end up, well, we're going to lose that top note, middle note moves down a half step. And then the bottom note splits into both directions by half steps. B splits off to C and B flat. I'm using some funny fingers there. Alright, so let's go back to the 5-7-5, G7. Bottom note splits off, lose the top note, middle note goes down a half step. Alright, now to get back to the 1 chord, F major, we need an F, an A, and a C. We already have a C, so middle note is the same. And then the outside notes are going to move out from each other in opposite direction. So B flat moves down a half step, top note moves up a half step to F. Or you could just use short-term memory and remember what you started on. Alright, so let's go through and we're going to go ahead and say the moves, because for a lot of people It's the most direct way for them to learn these progressions, because they stay the same no matter what key you're in. Let's start in the first inversion chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, bottom 2, move up. Overall up motion. Overall down motion. Outside out. Now when we get to that 5-7 to 5-5-7, you'll notice I said overall up motion, overall down motion. So there's really no avoiding, you need to know what those chords are. So the 5-7 to 5 again is a G7 chord, and the 5-7 again is a C7 chord. So now let's go through, and we're going to say the chord names, because at this level, people usually find the chord names to be more helpful, since there's no avoiding those two moves right there. You need to know those chords. Let's say our chord names. 1, 2, 3, 4. F major, B flat major, G7, C7, F major. Because then it feels just more like a drill. And then after the fact, you can kind of figure out, oh, how does it move? How does that feel? Let's do that one more time. Notice I always said the chord before I played the chord. I'm preparing myself mentally, that's why. 1, 2, 3. Start with F major, B flat major, G7, C7, F major. Alright, I'm going to turn on the metronome, practice the move from the 5-7 to 5 to the 5-7 as I'm getting that metronome ready. Let's see how exam ready we are. 1, 2, 3, 4. To do the bass line, your right hand's going to do the exact same thing, but the left hand is going to move into a 5-finger pattern for that key. So place it in F major 5-finger pattern, and it's not going to move from there. Because every Roman numeral we say, for example, when I say 1 in right, left hand's going to play the first note of the scale. Go through this slowly with me. As I say 4, for the right, the left hand's going to play the 4th note of the scale. When I go 5-7 to 5, gotta do some mental gymnastics. There's the 5. What's the 5 of the 5? It's G. 5-7. Well, what's the 5? I just figured it out to figure out 5-7 to 5. And then when I say 1, I go back to the first note of the scale. Let's say our Roman numerals as we play the bass line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 4, 5-7 to 5, 5-7, 1. Now the reason we do bass line exercises, it shows up more in music this way, these chord progressions. And these do show up in music. But it also trains your ear to say these things and connect. Oh, that's what a 5-7 to 5 sounds like. Oh, and going to a 5-7, oh, it's going to resolve to 1. So your ear starts picking up on these two, just by saying them out loud. Alright, as I said earlier, there's really no way of getting around. You've got to know that's a G7, that's a C7. You have to know that, because the moves are complicated. So we're going to say our chord names now. 1. Oh, and as we're saying the chord names, the left hand is just playing the name of the chord. So if we say F major, left hand's playing F. We say B flat major, left hand's playing B flat. We say G7, left hand's playing G. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. F major, B flat C7, C7, F major. Notice I started again saying my chords before I said those more difficult chords, C7, F. Alright, I'm going to get the metronome ready. Practice that up-down motion that you're going to need in the chords while I'm getting the metronome ready. And practice just rotating your wrist from note to note. You don't need this down-up motion. You need a drop into the first note, but then after that it's just rotating through each note in the 5-finger pattern till the end when you lift. One, two, three, four.